me share with you a few examples of Christian young people that are struggling with sexual behavior. Sally is 16 years old. She would describe a long string of relationships beginning in late elementary school. This need, this insatiable need to always be in a relationship. Typically, she would have an ongoing relationship, in other words, a current relationship, but would typically be very flirtatious with several other guys, many guys, and kind of always have somebody waiting, so that if this relationship broke up, she would either be immediately going back to someone that she used to have a relationship with, or she would already have one kind of brewing that would be easy to step right into. What really seemed to bother her when we sat down and talked, though, was the fact that there was anonymous sexual activity going on in her life pretty frequently. Sat down with Sally, she sat in the office, and she said, "Let me just tell you what my typical day is like. I get up and I go to school, and then I go to work. When I'm at work, I'll identify some guy who comes into the store where I work as the person I want to be sexual with that night. And I'll make sure he gets word. Maybe through a friend, I may approach him, but somehow or another, I'm going to make sure while he's in that store, he knows what I'm willing to do for him. And then usually, we'll set up a time and a place to meet. Then I get off work, and I go and meet up with him, and we do our sexual stuff. And then I drive home, and I cry myself to sleep." She says, "I hate what I do." Her exact words to me were, "I feel like crap." And she looked at me in almost a blank stare, with what seemed to be glossing over eyes, kind of tears coming. And she said, "But honestly, I know I'll probably do the same thing again tomorrow." 16 years old, stuck in that cycle. Tony is 17. Tony's struggle began around age 13 when he and several friends ran across a stash of one of the friend's father's pornography. Large stash, a lot of videos, a lot of magazines. And so typically after school they would all go together to the house, pick out something, they would watch it together. Well, it didn't take very long for this to grow into a pretty major ordeal for Tony. And in a few years there was a lot of internet sexual activity. There was sexual intercourse taking place with different girls in his life. A lot of phone sex, a lot of cyber sex. Tony's world came kind of crashing down one day when he walks home or walks in the house after school. His mom's in the kitchen in tears, just broken up. He finds out that a State Bureau of Investigations officer, an SBI agent, had been to his house earlier that afternoon and had shared with his mom what Tony had been doing online and what the consequences were going to be if he didn't stop, if they ever caught him again. Basically, Tony had gotten into a habit of getting on chat rooms on the internet and chatting with what he thought or what he was looking for, older women, more extreme women in his words. By the way, he's written a letter, and it's on our website, ultimateescape.org. And it really does a great job of helping show what goes on inside a Christian teen who's struggling with this addiction. If you're interested in trying to kind of see what it's like for a Christian teen who's dealing with these things, feels awful about them, desperately wants to stop but doesn't know how to go about stopping, I'd encourage you to get that kind of insight. You can do that by reading the letter online. Anyway, Tony had been doing a lot as far as chat room experiences. One day he was chatting with someone who he thought was an older female. It turned out to be a very young girl whose babysitter walked past the computer screen and noticed what was happening. Called the parents. The parents called the FBI. The FBI contacted the state where Tony lived and sent an investigator out to deal with it. Tony describes that night not sleeping at all. He said, "I never went to bed that night. I spent the entire night singing to God, begging God to forgive me, and vowing if God would forgive me for this, I'll never, ever do this again." And he said, for a couple of weeks, I didn't. And then I went right back to the same behaviors. Matthew's 21. Matthew's struggle with pornography began when he found a stash of pornography in the woods near his house, which began frequent trips out to that stash. Compulsive masturbation became an issue. When I say compulsive, meaning he couldn't stop. Thought it was wrong, decided he didn't want it in his life, didn't want to do it anymore, continued to be an issue. And internet sex. When I say internet sex, meaning he would use the internet to identify girls, young girls, that he could have sex with. Had been involved in kind of a web ring, meaning he would participate as a threesome with married couples who he would find on the internet through particular service. Felt it was wrong, knew it was wrong, asked for help, vowed to stop. At 21 years old, still struggling with the issue. Now, I don't know what your concept of these young people is, what you're thinking. Man, these people just really need to go to church. These people need God in their life. Can't imagine what kind of families these kids have grown up in. Sally's dad is a minister. Tony's dad is a deacon in his church. Matthew actually served as a youth ministry intern this past year. All three of these people, their hearts very much long to be the people God wants them to be. There's no question that these people love God and want to be different. They simply cannot break the control sexual behavior has on their life.